The day started like any other in a quiet little town. The sun was shining and the air was filled with the sounds of people talking, laughing, and enjoying their time. The town's small downtown area was always full of life, with people walking around, shopping, and eating at the local restaurants. It was a peaceful place where everyone felt safe. As the sun began to set, the warm golden light covered the town in a cozy glow. Families strolled down the sidewalks, children held ice cream cones in their hands, and old friends sat on benches sharing stories. Everything seemed perfect. But then, bang! A loud roar filled the air, like thunder on a stormy night. The peaceful streets were suddenly shaken by the deafening sound of motorcycles. A gang of bikers came roaring into town, their engines growling like angry beasts. The quiet evening was gone in an instant. People stopped what they were doing and turned to look. Some gasped, some took a step back, and others just stared in silence. The bikers weren't like the friendly townspeople. They were rough, dressed in worn leather jackets, their faces tough and unfriendly. Their motorcycles screeched as they stopped in the middle of the street, blocking traffic as if they didn't care about anyone else. The leader of the group was a big, burly man with a wild look in his eyes. He wore a bandana with a Confederate flag on his head, and he had a mean grin on his face, like he enjoyed the fear in people's eyes. His gang followed him closely, laughing and sneering at the onlookers. Without a second thought, they walked toward a small, family-owned bar, one of the town's most beloved places. But they weren't here for a peaceful drink. As they stomped inside, their heavy boots thudded against the wooden floor, and the whole place seemed to shrink around them. The once lively bar, filled with friendly chatter and soft music, turned silent. The bikers shoved chairs out of their way, clapped their hands loudly to get attention, and barked orders at the bartender. Some of them whistled rudely at the customers. The entire atmosphere had changed in seconds. In one quiet corner of the bar sat a man who seemed completely unfazed by the chaos around him. He was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He sat calmly, eating his meal as if nothing was happening. The Rock was known all over the world. He was a giant of a man, strong, powerful, and confident. He didn't wear anything fancy, just a simple black t-shirt and jeans, but his presence alone was enough to make people stop and stare. The biker leader narrowed his eyes when he saw The Rock sitting there, so calm and collected. He leaned in to whisper to one of his men, his voice dripping with anger. "Look at that guy sitting there like he owns the place," the leader sneered. "He thinks he's better than us. Let's go teach him a lesson." The other bikers grinned and nodded. They started walking toward The Rock's table, their heavy boots making the floor creak with each step. The leader stepped forward, slamming his fist down on the wooden table so hard that the dishes rattled. "You hear me, pretty boy?" he shouted. "I'm talking to you. Don't ignore me." Slowly, The Rock looked up from his plate. His deep, calm eyes met the biker leader's angry glare. He didn't look scared, not even a little. "I'm just here to eat," The Rock said, his voice even and strong. "You should try it. Might help you relax." The biker leader's face turned bright red. He was not used to being ignored, and The Rock's calm attitude made him even angrier. "Relax," the leader spat. "I don't need to relax. What I need is for you to learn some respect." The gang laughed, their voices echoing through the bar. They loved making people feel small, and they thought The Rock would back down like everyone else. But The Rock didn't flinch. He took another bite of his food, still acting like nothing was wrong. "You think you're better than us?" one of the bikers growled, his fists clenched tightly. The bartender, an old man who had worked at the bar for years, saw that things were getting dangerous. His hands shook slightly as he stepped forward. "Come on, boys," he said, his voice kind but firm. "Leave him alone. He's just eating his meal. He hasn't done anything to you." The Rock gave the bartender a small nod, appreciating the old man's bravery. But the biker leader wasn't listening. "Mind your own business, old man," the leader sneered. "This doesn't concern you." The bartender swallowed but stood his ground. "It's my bar," he said firmly. "So it does concern me. I won't let you bully an innocent man in here." The leader's face twisted with rage. His nostrils flared and his muscles tensed. In one quick motion he grabbed The Rock's plate and flung it onto the floor. The dish shattered into pieces and food splattered across the wooden floor. "Still hungry?" the leader snarled. The entire bar held its breath. No one dared to speak. Slowly The Rock stood up. He was much taller than the biker leader, his broad shoulders making him look even more powerful. His muscles flexed as he looked down at the man with an unreadable expression. "That was a mistake," he said quietly. The biker leader hesitated for just a moment. But then, with a wild yell, he swung a punch at The Rock. But The Rock was too fast. He stepped aside effortlessly, making the biker miss completely. The leader's own momentum sent him stumbling forward, nearly falling over. Before he could recover, the Rock struck back. His punch was powerful, knocking the leader off his feet. The other bikers gasped as their leader hit the floor with a heavy thud. Two more bikers rushed at the Rock, thinking they could take him down together. But the Rock was ready. He grabbed a nearby chair and used it to block one of their punches. The wooden chair rattled from the impact, but the Rock didn't even flinch. In a swift move, he twisted the chair's leg behind the second attacker's knee, sending him crashing to the ground. The other bikers hesitated. They had never faced someone like this before. But one of them, angry and embarrassed, grabbed a pool cue and charged at the Rock, swinging it like a sword. The Rock's sharp reflexes kicked in. He dodged the swing with ease, grabbed the cue from the biker's hands, and snapped it in two like it was nothing. More bikers rushed at him, but the Rock fought them off one by one. He moved quickly, dodging attacks and landing powerful punches. Tables and chairs crashed around him as the bar turned into a battlefield. The Rock grabbed one biker by the jacket and tossed him over the counter. Another tried to swing at him, but the Rock ducked, lifted the man off his feet, and sent him flying into a pile of chairs. Finally, the remaining bikers realized they were outmatched. Their leader groaned on the floor, barely able to move. The Rock straightened his shirt and looked around. The bar was a mess, but he was still standing tall. He took a deep breath, then turned to the bartender. "Sorry about the mess," he said casually. The bartender, still in shock, managed a small smile. "No problem, son," he said. "Drinks are on the house." The other customers, who had been hiding in fear, started cheering. The bikers scrambled out the door, dragging their beaten leader with them. The Rock sat back down, picked up a new plate of food, and took a bite. Now finally he could enjoy his meal. And the town? The town would never forget the night the Rock stood up to the bikers. The biker leader ran at the Rock, holding a broken beer bottle high in the air. His face was filled with anger, and he was ready to attack. The sharp, jagged edges of the bottle gleamed under the dim bar lights. He wanted to hurt the Rock badly. But the Rock was too fast. His quick reflexes were almost unbelievable. Before the biker could strike, the Rock grabbed the man's arm in the middle of the swing. In one smooth motion he twisted it hard. The biker leader screamed in pain. Then the Rock slammed the biker down on the edge of the wooden bar. Crack. A terrible sound filled the air as the biker's ribs broke under the Rock's powerful strength. The broken beer bottle shattered into 100 tiny, glittering pieces. Glass flew everywhere, catching the dim light like small stars. The biker groaned and slumped to the ground, clutching his side. But the fight wasn't over. The other bikers in the bar jumped up from their seats. Their faces were angry, and their eyes burned with rage. They were out for revenge. "Get him," one of them shouted. The whole bar exploded into chaos. Chairs tipped over. Drinks spilled. People screamed and ran to get out of the way. The Rock spun around just in time to block a punch from another biker. With a single, powerful hit, he sent the man flying backward into a table. Crash. The table snapped in half under the man's weight. More bikers came at him, but the Rock was ready. He dodged, blocked, and struck back with speed and precision. Every punch he threw landed perfectly. Every move he made was like a carefully planned dance, fast, smooth, and unstoppable. The fight spilled out onto the street. The sound of roaring motorcycle engines filled the night air like a wild, mechanical symphony. The air smelled like gasoline and smoke. The bikers circled the Rock, their numbers growing. The Rock was outnumbered, but he didn't care. He stood tall, his face calm, his eyes focused. Then they attacked all at once. The Rock moved like lightning. He dodged punches, blocked kicks, and struck back with powerful blows. His fists were a blur of motion. One biker went down. Then another. And another. But there were too many. A biker swung a chain at the Rock. He ducked just in time. Another biker charged at him with a steel pipe, aiming for his head. Thinking fast, the Rock grabbed a motorcycle parked nearby. With a powerful shove, he toppled it over. Crash. The heavy bike fell, smashing into the charging biker, knocking him to the ground. The people watching gasped. Some cheered. Others just stood there stunned. The Rock turned just as another biker ran at him. With superhuman strength, he lifted the man high over his head. The biker kicked and struggled, but the Rock was too strong. Then, with a loud roar, the Rock hurled the man into a pile of trash cans. Bang. Crash. The metal bins tumbled everywhere, spilling garbage onto the pavement. More bikers attacked, but one by one the Rock took them down. Finally, the last biker fell to the ground, groaning in pain. The street was now quiet, except for the sound of the bikers moaning and groaning. Then came the sirens. WO, WO, WO. Red and blue lights flashed, painting the street in bright colors. A police car pulled up fast. 2 officers jumped out. Their guns were drawn. Their faces were serious. "Freeze. Hands up," one of them shouted. The Rock turned to face them. His calm expression never changed. Slowly he raised his hands, showing his open palms. Even with bruises on his arms and face, he stood tall and fearless. "You might want to ask these guys what happened before you start blaming me," The Rock said in a deep, steady voice. The officer narrowed his eyes and looked around. The street was a mess. Broken glass, trash cans knocked over, motorcycles on their sides, and bikers everywhere, groaning and holding their injuries. Then bar patrons stepped outside. They all started talking at once. They told the police what had really happened. The officer's face changed as he realized the truth. Then, suddenly, his eyes went wide. He stared at The Rock. "Wait a minute. Captain Johnson?" The other officer turned, also looking shocked. He stepped closer, one hand still on his holster. The Rock smirked a little. "Retired," he said. "Just Johnson now." The first officer's face softened. His eyes were now filled with respect. He slowly put his gun away and reached out a hand. The bikers looked confused and scared. The leader of the gang gritted his teeth, still holding his injured ribs. "Captain? As in police captain?" The Rock didn't say anything at first. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something shiny. A silver badge. It gleamed under the street lights. "That's right," he said. His voice was strong and full of authority. He held up the badge so everyone could see. "Dwayne Johnson, your new commanding officer. And all of you just earned yourselves a one-way ticket to jail." The bikers' faces turned pale. Their eyes widened in panic. The police officers snapped the handcuffs onto them. Click, click, click. The cold metal wrapped around their wrists. The gang members, once so loud and fearless, now stood silent and humiliated. Inside the bar, people cheered. "Yeah," someone shouted. The bartender ran up to The Rock, his face beaming. "That was the best thing I've ever seen," he said, grinning. The Rock chuckled and shook his hand. "Thanks," he said. Then, with a small smirk, he added, "But I think I'll stick to water." The bartender laughed. "Suit yourself, Captain." People in the bar returned to their seats, talking excitedly about the wild night. The Rock stood up. His tall, powerful frame cast a shadow over the room. The bar grew quiet. Everyone waited to hear what he would say. "Tonight we stood up to bullies," he said. His voice was deep, steady, commanding. "And we proved that things aren't always what they seem." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But remember this, bullies can be anywhere." With that, he turned and walked out into the night. The streetlights glowed warmly, shining down on him. He looked like a hero, standing tall, strong, and fearless. The camera lingered on him for a moment. Then it shifted toward the biker gang. The once proud gang members were now being loaded into the police van. They looked defeated. Their tough guy act was gone. And with that, the night came to an end. If you enjoyed this story, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories filled with adventure, mystery, and excitement. Your support means the world, and it helps keep these stories coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.